The trading post orbited a dying star, its metal corridors humming with the voices of 1,000 species. Commander David Hayes stood at the merchant stall, examining a replacement power coupling for his battered freighter. He had been stranded here for 3 days, waiting for parts and watching his credit account drain like water through a sieve. The Valen merchant clicked its mandibles in what might have been amusement. 200 credits, human. No negotiation. David sighed and reached for his credit chip when a commotion erupted behind him. The crowd parted like a wave, and he turned to see why everyone suddenly looked terrified. She was tall, easily 7 feet, with skin that shimmered between purple and blue, depending on the light. 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern on her angular face, blinked in sequence as she scanned the marketplace. Her clothing was clearly expensive, woven from some material that seemed to capture starlight itself. Behind her marched 6 armored guards, their weapons prominently displayed. The marketplace fell silent. David noticed even the Valen merchant had gone completely still. The princess, because that was obviously what she was, moved through the crowd with purpose. Her gaze swept across the various species present, a cluster of methane-breathing Torgoth, a family of crystalline Shamari, a group of insectoid traders whose name David could never remember. Then her eyes locked onto him. David felt his stomach drop as she changed direction, walking straight toward his position. The guards followed, their boots creating an ominous rhythm on the metal deck. She stopped directly in front of him, close enough that he had to tilt his head back to meet her gaze. Up close, he could see that her skin had patterns, subtle geometric designs that shifted and flowed like living tattoos. She smelled like ozone and something floral he could not identify. "You are human," she stated. Her voice was surprisingly melodic, with only a slight accent. "Yes, ma'am," David replied, because his mother had raised him to be polite, even when confronted by alien royalty in a space station. Marketplace. She reached into a pouch at her belt and withdrew 3 small objects. They looked like coins, hexagonal in shape, made from a metal that gleamed with an inner light. She held them out in her palm, which David noted had 6 fingers instead of 5. "Human, is this enough to buy a husband?" The marketplace, already silent, somehow became even quieter. David heard someone drop something metal that clattered on the deck. One of the guards coughed. David stared at the tokens, then at the princess, then back at the tokens. His brain seemed to have stopped processing information correctly. "I'm sorry, what?" "A husband," she repeated patiently. "I wish to purchase one. You are human. Humans are valuable. I have 3 royal tokens. Is this sufficient payment?" David's mouth opened and closed several times. Behind the princess, he could see the Valen merchant watching, with all 8 of its eyes wide, with what might have been horror or fascination. A small crowd had gathered at a safe distance, clearly invested in how this situation would resolve. "Ma'am, I don't think you understand how humans work," David began carefully. "We don't really do the whole buying and selling people thing anymore. We had a bad experience with it a few centuries back. Very bad. Wars were fought. It's kind of a sensitive topic." The princess tilted her head, her 4 eyes blinking in a cascade pattern that suggested confusion. "But the information network says humans sell everything. Your species has a saying, everything has a price." "That's more of a metaphor," David explained, acutely aware that he was having this conversation in front of approximately 50 witnesses. "And even when we do sell things, we usually prefer currency, not tokens. Also, and I cannot stress this enough, we really frown on human trafficking." "Trafficking?" She seemed genuinely puzzled. "I do not wish to traffic you anywhere. I wish to marry you and take you to my homeworld. You would live in the palace. Your every need would be met. You would want for nothing." One of the guards, apparently unable to contain himself, muttered something in a language David did not recognize. The princess shot him a look that could have melted hull plating. David took a deep breath. Okay, let me ask you something. Why do you want to marry a human? Specifically, why do you want to marry me? You just met me 30 seconds ago. The princess straightened, clearly on more comfortable ground now. The Council of Elders has decreed that I must marry before the next solar alignment, or my claim to the throne will be forfeit. They expect me to choose from the traditional noble houses. But I refuse to be paired with Lord Vashton, who smells of rotting kelp, or Prince Meridex, who once tried to conquer my father's fleet with 12 ships and a badly written manifesto. She gestured broadly, nearly hitting David with one long arm. Humans are known throughout the galaxy for your cleverness, your adaptability, your strange ability to find solutions where none should exist. My advisors call it human nonsense, but I have read the reports. You defeated the Crixian Dominion with nothing but mining equipment and what you called determination. You survived the plague of Corvex by simply refusing to acknowledge it was supposed to be fatal. You are bizarre, illogical, and somehow effective. David had to admit, when she put it that way, humanity did sound pretty impressive. That still doesn't explain why you want to marry me specifically. You are the first human I encountered, she said simply. Also, you have kind eyes. And you addressed me respectfully, which is more than can be said from most beings who seek royal favor. That's very flattering, David said slowly. But I'm not really in the market for marriage right now. I have a freighter to repair, cargo to deliver, and a pretty significant debt to work off. The princess's expression shifted. Her skin tone darkened to a deeper purple, and her eyes narrowed. For a moment, David thought he had offended her. Then she spoke again. What if I paid your debts? I'm sorry, what? Your debts. Your ship repairs. Your cargo obligations. What if I settled all of it? Would that change your answer? David felt sweat forming on his forehead despite the station's climate control. Ma'am, with all due respect, you can't just buy people. Even if you pay their debts, that's still basically buying people. What if I courted you properly? She seemed to be warming to this new approach. According to human customs, courtship involves shared meals, conversation, and the exchange of gifts. I could do these things. I am an excellent conversationalist. My chefs prepare 57 varieties of protein dishes. I have access to the royal treasury. One of the guards made a choking sound. The princess ignored him. David ran his hand through his hair, trying to think of a diplomatic way out of this situation. Look, I appreciate the offer. Really, I do. Any guy would be lucky to have someone pursue them with this much enthusiasm. But I barely know you. I don't even know your name. I am Princess Lyra of the 7th House, Keeper of the Celestial Gates, Guardian of the Crystal Moons, and heir to the stellar throne of Vexera Prime. That's a lot of titles, David observed. I have 17 more, but they are mostly ceremonial. Right. Well, I'm David Hayes, freelance cargo hauler, currently broke, and holder of exactly 0 titles. He paused. Look, how about this? I can't marry you, but I could have dinner with you. One meal. We talk, get to know each other like normal people. Well, normal-ish. And if you still want to pursue this after actually having a conversation with me, we can discuss next steps. But no promises, no obligations, and definitely no token-based transactions. Princess Lyra considered this proposal. Her skin shifted through several shades of blue and purple, which David was beginning to suspect indicated deep thought. Finally, she nodded. This is acceptable. We will share a meal. I will demonstrate my worthiness as a potential mate. You will be charmed by my intelligence and grace. Sure, David said weakly. That sounds like a plan. She turned to her guards. Clear my schedule for this evening. Reserve the private dining chamber at the Celestial Anchor. Inform the chefs I will require their finest preparations. She looked back at David. What foods do you prefer? I'm not picky, David said. Anything except those Torgoth fungus cakes. Tried them once. Bad decision. Agreed. Torgoth cuisine is an assault on the senses. She placed the 3 tokens back in her pouch. I will collect you at the 20th hour. Where is your vessel? David told her the docking bay number. Still not entirely sure how his day had gone from routine repairs to dinner with alien royalty Dot, as the princess and her guards departed, the marketplace slowly returned to life. The Valen merchant leaned across the counter. Human, you either just made the best decision of your life or the worst. With royalty, it is often difficult to determine which until much later. David purchased his power coupling and made his way back to his ship, wondering what exactly he had gotten himself into. He had come to this station looking for parts. Instead, he had apparently acquired a dinner date with a 7-foot-tall alien princess who thought marriage proposals involved tokens and marketplace negotiations. The worst part was, he was actually looking forward to it. When he told his ship's AI about the situation, it responded with what could only be described as digital laughter. Captain, in the 3 years I have been operational, you have dodged meteor storms, negotiated with space pirates, and accidentally insulted a Crixian warlord. But this is your greatest adventure yet. David groaned and began working O.